Video games in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise are typically the main meal, the main course. While Sonic is a multimedia franchise with multiple games, shows, and now even movies, the games are usually what gets the biggest buzz in the fan base. And in the fan base, everyone has their ideal Sonic game. Sonic is an inconsistent franchise with multiple playstyles, writing styles, and etc. So much of this franchise changes from game to game, and due to that, fans have their own ideals of what a perfect Sonic game would and could be. And of course, since I'm one of those freaks known as Sonic fans, I also have a few ideas of what I think could possibly make a good Sonic game, and so I guess it'd be neat to put that into a video. And this video is going to talk about almost every single aspect of making one of these games, from control, level design, story, character writing, voice actors, characters, etc, etc. So let's get moving! But before I actually continue on, I want to briefly say that I am not a game developer, writer, or artist, or to be honest, a person of any skill of talent. Shit, that's kinda sad. So I understand if some of these ideas are damn near impossible to implement due to the technology or funds not being there yet. I completely get that. This is all an extremely rough proof of concept in a world with no limitations. Cool? Cool. Alright, starting with the most important part of this would be the actual gameplay style. Since Sonic is again widely inconsistent, what style do I think would fit my ideal Sonic game? Personally, the Sonic Adventure 2 style with some slight tweaks would be perfect in my opinion. For one, every game doesn't need 2 separate campaigns. We just need one campaign with at least 3 playable characters that last around 12 to 15 hours. If, of course, the game warrants another campaign, then include it by all means, but in this case, right now, we're just gonna focus on the main 3 characters. Sonic will pretty much control like his SA2 counterpart, retaining the Lightspeed Dash, which is going to be mapped to a separate button, the Bounce Bracelet, and a slightly faster Somersault, basically reinvented into a roll. Along with these moves, Sonic will also have current moves to his repertoire, primarily the Triangle Jump and a homing attack with a lock-on indicator. Moving on though, the next player character would be Tails, which is going to be a little different from his past playable roles. Instead of making the mech stages from SA2 or the race stages from SA1, I prefer Tails were akin to a platformer shooter, i.e. Ratchet and Clank. I think this would honestly fit the Sonic style better than the slower mechs with things like faster shots, dodging, and enemies. Tails' moves would consist of a shooting mechanism, mainly inspired by, again, Ratchet and Clank, and the mechs from SA2, but instead mapping the shoot to a trigger instead of the right-facing button, which can now be mapped to a spin attack a la SA1 for maybe some puzzles and platforming. Of course, Tails is also able to fly, but only for short periods of time. Tails can even have an Ultra Shot move that takes time to charge up by holding the top face button on a controller. I'd also like to give Tails upgrades to do things like hover, lock on multiple enemies, extra shots, etc, etc. You can even include past upgrades from something like Tails Adventure with bombs and mini robots. And make sure the puzzles aren't baby bitch puzzles. Make them akin to the Final Horizons puzzles, that would be more ideal. Moving on to Knuckles, he's also going to be shaken up a bit. While I do like treasure hunting in SA1 and SA2, I also think it fits the Sonic series better if we could combine this aspect with an action game, where Knuckles goes against enemies in hand-to-hand combat, all of something like the Rare Hogs combos and Frontier's combat speed. Knuckles should be able to have a series of button combos, glide, climb walls, and dig. And in between combat, Knuckles can search for certain items in smaller interior areas, so Knuckles doesn't beat all the levels by gliding to the end of it. Oh, and be sure to give him the SA1 radar, of course. As for level design for the main 3, while SA2's level design is well made, I do think the linearity hurts the levels more than it helps. And while I do like SA1's openness, it also just doesn't hold up to the standard I'm setting. And anything from future games, in my opinion, doesn't really fit the gameplay style, even if I personally like them. So personally, I think we evolved the gameplay style from SA1 to have multiple paths that are a lot more expansive. Larger, branching pathways with multiple areas that lead to the end depending on the player's skill. Essentially a simple translation of how the classic games would do level design to 3D. As for Tails, you can pretty much make his design like the original mech stages, minus the unfair placements of enemies, of course. And I'd also appreciate slightly more open level design so enemies can actually put up a fight against a player that they can dodge. And as for Knuckles, the level design can be akin to a normal action game with hidden areas that take advantage of Knuckles' treasure hunting abilities with sections of combat where you fight small waves of enemies. As for boss battles, I think with Sonic we can take some inspiration from Perfect Chaos in Sonic Adventure and Sonic Generations, and Ghost in Sonic Frontiers. Taking Sonic levels and turning them into giant boss battles with chases and avoiding obstacles is something I've actually kind of preferred opposed to one-on-one boss battles in Sonic. I don't really like boss battles that make you wait for a pattern to attack an enemy. Sure, those can be cool for maybe a more slow-paced platformer, but for Sonic that doesn't really work. Tails can be in one-on-one shoot-offs like the battle mode in Sonic Adventure 2, using gadgets to distract our enemies. And Knuckles can go against bosses like the Guardians from Sonic Frontiers, just actually challenging. And none of that Final Horizons bullshit where you just make it like dumb and stupid where a bunch of things fly out. No, I mean like actually fairly difficult. Alright, now we move on to story, which is gonna be quite brief. This is because I've had too many ideas for Sonic stories over the past 15 years of being a fan. So instead of trying to give one idea, I'll instead just be saying what I'd want to see from the series in terms of tone and a general rundown of characters and their roles. The tone should be akin to something like Unleashed in Frontiers. The story is able to take itself seriously, but the game also remembers that this is a franchise about a rodent that runs really fast. I do think some games lean too hard into the melodramatic feel of these games, and due to this have little to no charming qualities that actually make them intriguing, at least intentionally. When I say this, my mind jumps to 06 and how its story has had very few moments of levity, and sometimes it feels just awkward. Unleashed in Frontiers does a very good job taking its story serious without being dry. Have some fun with it, tell some jokes, cute character interactions, don't be boring. But don't be a joke. Sure, I don't like Sonic 06's overly dramatic tone, but I also don't like Sonic Colors' tone of just being a jokey game. And I definitely don't like how Lost World tries to be a jokey game while also presenting a story they want you to care about. And as for characters, they also need to stay relatively true to themselves, and by that I mean what I like about them, and me only. With the main characters, Sonic should be a cocky, energetic teenager who does what he thinks is right in the name of freedom, not heroism. A character that loves exploring and finding new places and adventure. A static character that never wavers or changes due to being the pure embodiment of what he believes in, even if it's frowned upon. Tails is a young inventor with confidence issues that he needs to overcome to become the hero he believes he can. And Knuckles is a hot-headed guardian of the Master Emerald who's slightly gullible due to his lack of social interactions. Dr. Eggman is the main villain who, while goofy at times, is still a huge threat for the characters to face. As for side characters, Shadow the Hedgehog is the ultimate life form who will do anything to protect the planet, even as an agent of GUN, even if his methods aren't ideal. Rouge the Bat is a GUN spy who works on her own morals and usually to her own gain. E123 Omega is an Eggman robot that has gone rogue who hates a doctor for not seeing his true potential and now wants to destroy everything related to him. Amy Rose is Sonic's self-proclaimed girlfriend who tries to help the locals of Station Square by doing anything in her possible power. Cream the Rabbit is an innocent young girl who also helps Amy's on her small adventures and loves raising Chow. Big? He's big. And the Chaotix are a group of detectives who are struggling to pay rent. Vector is the muscle and brains of the operation, Espio is a ninja who has a high sense of honor, and Charmy is the young kid of the group who's extremely youthful and energetic and loves playing tricks. While these are not all the characters I listed, these are the ideal character personality traits for these characters in my opinion, and if used correctly in stories with them can be extremely interesting. Lastly though, we're gonna delve into more miscellaneous things, mainly related to presentation, character design, art direction, etc. Starting with art direction, I would love something that fits the series. No overly realistic environments and nothing overly cartoony. Imaginative environments that feel like they could be real with realistic textures. Along with this, the character design should be that of Sonic Adventures models with textures akin to Sonic Frontiers. I like my Sonic short, what can I say? It'd also be awesome if we could have hub worlds a la SA1, small little areas to add charm to the game with human anime-esque NPCs and other anthro NPCs. As for music, I like to take both recent styles the series has dabbled with and combine them in a sense. Ever since Otani has took over as series sound director in Sonic Colors, we rarely see Jun and Otani collaborate on any songs or games. Personally, I think we should bring back character themes, but change them up a bit. Sonic's speed stages can combine EDM aspects of Frontiers and Forces with heavy rock style of adventure. I'm a huge fan of both of these genres and I think combining the two would be awesome. As for Tails stages, more mechanical techno music would also fit the vibe of his stages. And bring back raps for Knuckles and keep it cheesy. In fact, that goes for the entire vocal tracks in general. Keep vocal tracks in the levels and main themes themselves. They add charm to the levels and game. As for voice cast, I think all the voice cast works relatively well. Maybe replacing Rouge's VA though. I've not been a fan of their voice actor since Team Sonic Racing. Extra gameplay modes would also be cool too. Special stages haven't been seen in the 3D game since Heroes, which kinda sucks. It'd be cool for them to make a return. Maybe a multiplayer mode like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle with races, shoot-offs, and combat trials. Oh, and make it online. Bring back the Chao Garden too, please? I'm begging you, Sega. Add even more character Chao, online play, more gardens, Chao's cosmetics, races. That would be so fucking cool. Add tough rankings to incentivize players to get better at Sonic stages through speed, and the other two focusing on score. Red Star rings can make a return in these games too, which can unlock cool accessories and cosmetics, or even random things like menu themes, sound tests, etc, etc. And as of now, that's kind of it. I'm sure there's many more ideas I'd like to add if I want to be more expansive and add other characters, and maybe I'd give a story outline out of my head of ideas, but for now, that's kind of just the basic outlines of things I want. This was fun to do and put my ideas to paper. Well, digital paper. But this is cool. I hope you enjoyed this, and if so, let me know what your dream Sonic game is. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye bye.